2,000 plus human children will die tomorrow from abortion. 2,000 plus women will be forever wounded from their abortion. Families, 2,000 plus families will have a whole branch of their family tree forever cut off. Like, this is not a theoretical conversation. Like, the burning building is in front of you. It is on fire, and we have to go in and save as many as we can.
What if I were to tell you that every day when you filled up a glass of water from your kitchen sink, you were probably drinking someone's abortion? What if I were to tell you that the rising infertility rates that we're experiencing in our country probably have a whole lot to do with anti-progesterone metabolites that are found in abortion pills that seep into our wastewater and by result, our drinking water as well? What if I were to tell you that our wildlife populations, our plant life, and so much more are directly being impacted by the abortion pill that also happens to be killing more than 700,000 babies in our country every single day? These are the tough questions that we are frankly afraid to ask in the realm of American culture and politics because it's uncomfortable to talk about, it's difficult for us to face. Maybe this has impacted you personally at some level of your life or someone that you know, but if we are serious about reviving health in our society, if we are serious about protecting the innocent and restoring human rights in our society, if we're serious about protecting the environment and being true conservationists in our society, this is a conversation we desperately need to have. So, without further ado, let's sit down with one of the leading experts on how the abortion industry is destroying our environment, our culture, and innocent human life today with Kristan Hawkins.
I'm giggling before we even start the interview because it's been way too long since I've gotten to hang out with you. But Kristan Hawkins, founder and president of Students for Life of America, joins us today on the show. I am so excited. This has been a long time coming to have you. You look beautiful, by the way. I'm so glad to be here in Nashville with you. Let's jump right into it because I'm getting so many questions about abortion right now. Obviously, you guys know I'm an incredibly outspoken pro-life advocate. I always have been. I joined Kristan on one of her speaking tours back in the day.
I gave you a good time.
Oh, we got attacked by Antifa. We got all the good stuff happening on campus. We had a blast. That was a really great tour.
The girl that barked at us, do you remember the girl who started barking?
I saw someone
I saw a
share
clip
that
of the other day. I forgot it happened.
Me too. Yeah, a kid barked at us, possessed by a dog demon or something. I don't know.
Remember, because she was like a girl and she said she was a boy. Then she had a
she wanted
girlfriend,
to like have
and there was
dildos or something.
And I was like, we're not against dildo sex, I guess. The pro-life movement, like, I'm not passing any laws banning a dildo. Just don't kill your baby.
Amen. Amen.
I don't know why all these gay people are always like.
It's always the queers on
why
campus
are the gay
that are coming
people
at
so pro-abortion? You can't make a baby.
The number of times, Kristan, I've been asked on campus in the last year, well, what happens if I like end up being pregnant? And I've had to sit there and explain. I was at Yale the other day. No, this wasn't. No, it wasn't Yale.
Yeah.
I got a question the other day from a student talking about, oh, well, you know, what happens if I get pregnant? And I have to explain, well, no, it takes a man and a woman to get pregnant. And she looked at me with that exact face. And I said, okay, so let's break this down. What forms a human being? A sperm cell and a what? A what? That comes from two different people. She had no idea, like genuinely no concept of basic human reproduction.
At Yale.
So, importance of why you are doing what you do to just tell the truth in so many different ways. But I'm getting a lot of questions about abortion because in the post-RoeVWade era, after the Dobbs decision, I'm seeing kind of two schools of thought right now related to the fight for life. The first being, great, we won, the fight's over, so fantastic. Let's move on with our lives and talk about a different subject. And the second being, well, we could continue to fight for life, but it's just kind of meaningless now because all the states are kind of just going to do their own thing, and the blue states are going to be crazy, and the red states are not going to be crazy, and okay, like that's that. Everybody else can do the fight now, but we don't have to be involved. Neither of them are accurate, obviously, but can you just paint a picture for us of where the state of abortion in America is at right now in 2026?
Well, we don't have a national abortion reporting law because Planned Parenthood would never allow it.
Yeah.
So
what does that mean for those
It means
who don't
we
know?
don't have like accurate reporting numbers of how many abortions or all of the complications. All we have are some states have their own reporting laws and complication rates, and we use data that the abortion industry self-reports to itself. So I can use self-reported data, but according to the Guttmacher Institute, which used to be part of Planned Parenthood, named after Alan Guttmacher, former president of Planned Parenthood, vice president of American Eugenics Society, just FYI, abortion eugenics, the ties there. abortions are largely happening at the same numbers as they were before Roe versus Wade was reversed, before the Dobbs decision. So you're having 1 million to 1.2 million abortions a year still happening in our country.
Even though so many states have outlawed it.
Even though a number of states have outlawed, I mean, there's always like a limbo of like how many states because there's so many court cases. And so that's really the challenge of you have free to be born states and you have free to kill states. But abortions are still happening in the free to be born states, the red states, because all of those state laws are being usurped by the big abortion pharma. They're shipping chemical abortion pills into every state. So the majority of abortions now are not being committed at the brick and mortar abortion facilities. I mean, Planned Parenthood's hurting for money. So now they're the largest distributor of wrong sex hormones that sterilize minors. And now they're selling Botox.
I forgot about that. I just read an article about that the other day.
They're trying to make money. That's how desperate they are. I mean, they need money because that's what fuels their political machine because they're one of the biggest lobbyists in the Democratic Party, which people always tend to forget about. So that's not where abortions are majority are happening. It's happening in dormitories, in bathrooms, because anyone in any state, so you can be a man, you can be a rapist, you can be a woman who's 30 weeks pregnant and order chemical abortion pills and have them shipped to your door. Now, abortionists or midwives or randos in their basements in blue states can ship these drugs into red states. Some of the drugs are coming from Mexico, India, China. We don't even know if they're actual abortion drugs. So that's why like there was an article a couple weeks ago in South Carolina where they found an actual baby at like a formed big baby, not like, you know, everyone's like, oh, a little fetus, so small, like a recognizable child at the wastewater cleaning plant in South Carolina, because what likely happened was a mother probably ordered chemical abortion pills. The first pill, Mifepristone, that's the one being litigated right now, kills the baby early in pregnancy because it starves the child. It blocks progesterone, the hormone that feeds the baby. But the second pill opens up your cervix and causes contractions. So you can be post 12 weeks. Mifepristone is not going to really kill your baby at that point, but Mifepristone will start contractions and will force you to deliver a baby, like a late-term baby. And so now you're starting to see, there was a guy, like a landlord in Texas who had a plumbing issue in his apartment building, and there was a dead baby in the plumbing pipes.
Oh my gosh.
So, because that's where abortions are happening.
Is in the bathroom.
Is actually in the toilet. These are toilet bowl abortions that are happening, and it's a 2-pill right now. It's a 2-pill regimen.
Can you walk us through that? I mean, I know this obviously, and I think a lot of people watching this may be familiar, but they may not be, because chemical abortion is such an abstract idea, right? You hear the abortion pill and no one really knows what that means. You just did a great synopsis there that it's actually 2 different pills. Most of the time, abortion clinics make you sit there if you are prescribed this in a clinic and they watch you swallow the first one.
Used to. So the Biden administration knew Roe was going to fall. Anyone with a brain who listened to the Dobbs hearing at the Supreme Court on December 1st, 2021, knew Roe versus Wade's going to fall.
Well, it was horrible constitutional law. Even Ginsburg said that
I think
repeatedly.
I could have argued for the abortion lobby better than, it was like the lady from Center for Reproductive Rights just like woke up and they were like, hey, you're arguing to defend Roe today. Like it was a mess of so many things. So the Biden administration knew Roe's going to go. So they took several steps in the months leading up from December to June when we had the Dobbs decision. One of the first steps they did, and I remember this because it ruined my Christmas. I was in Key West and it ruined my Christmas. So I remember when this happened. The FDA under the Biden administration, they had REMS. We always had REMS, risk evaluation mitigation strategies on chemical abortions. So when the Clinton FDA legalized these pills in 2000, they put REMS on them. There's about 80 pharmaceutical drugs that are really dangerous, and so there's REMS attached, and it's basically like a black box warning. There's certain conditions. The Biden FDA in December 2021 removed the REMS. So they said, oh, anyone can give them. You can get them at Costco. You can get them at Walgreens. Oh, you know, COVID is so scary. We don't want women to have to go to an abortion clinic to get these pills, to take the first pill. So she can get them mailed to her. So they used COVID as an excuse. They stripped the REMS. So now you don't have to go into a clinic to ingest the first pill. You can order them and take, this is what's so scary. They say they care about women's reproductive health. If you're a woman who has an ectopic pregnancy, it used to be if you're going to have an abortion and you're pregnant on the pregnancy test, you go to the abortion clinic. What they're supposed to do is give you an ultrasound to make sure you don't have
sure you're actually pregnant.
Make sure you're actually pregnant. Make sure that the baby isn't lodged in your fallopian tube. Because if you have an ectopic pregnancy and it's not treated, your fallopian tube will burst as that baby grows, and you could very well die from internal bleeding. Now, you could be pregnant, the pregnancy test will come pregnant, order the pills, be having ectopic pregnancy, and no one's going to know. You could be Rh negative, your baby could be Rh positive, and you could create Rh incompatibility, so you'll never be able to carry another child to term ever again. Which is why one of the first things you do when you're pregnant is they give you an Rh test and give you a blood test. And if you have incompatibility, they'll treat you anytime there's a commingling of blood, if you have a miscarriage, if you have an abortion, or if you have a live birth. They don't even test for that. So there's no, the whole,
Well, you mentioned even men are ordering them. I've seen several criminal convictions this last year where men are ordering abortion pills without their wife or girlfriend's knowledge. She is pregnant. Thanks be to God that she's actually pregnant. We're just not spiking anybody's drinks with these things. But they end up spiking their wife or their girlfriend's drink with this without their knowledge or consent, obviously putting their life in danger too. And this is the part that I think is really interesting to think about. So the abortion pill, most people think of as the more sanitary, easy to understand version of an abortion compared to the horrors of surgical abortion that we know are pretty hard to sell to people, right? You're really involving ripping limbs off of a human being and inserting a gigantic needle into a woman's stomach to give a heart attack to a baby, and then ripping their legs and arms off and their head to make sure that all of the products of conception come out of the womb while the woman is heavily sedated so that she doesn't really understand what's going on. Horrifying.
That's if you have enough money. If you don't have enough money, you only get Twilight.
True, which is horrible. Brandon Gill did a great job talking about these horrors on Capitol Hill.
Website.
Love. But the chemical abortion conversation is a lot of an easier pill to swallow, no pun intended, right? Women are told, hey, this is going to be like taking a really strong Tylenol, which is insane.
I ask girls at camps all the time, where do you think the baby goes? Do you think the baby just you take a pill? I think the majority of this generation, when we talk about chemical abortion, thinks of chemical abortion as the baby magically just reabsorbs into your body. I'm like, no, there's a baby and there's going to be one or two things that happen. Either there's going to be a living baby or there's a dead baby. But how do you think the baby is going to come out?
You have to give birth.
At some point, the baby has to come out of you. It doesn't absorb it. But no one, Patty Murray, Senator Patty Murray in February, she was condemning Students for Life because we've been attacking this from an environmental angle.
I want to get to that too. Don't let me forget.
And so she goes, she's in a Senate hearing. She's like, Students for Life, this is crazy. They're just saying women are having abortions in the toilet. No one's having abortions in the toilet. I'm like, almost every woman who's having an abortion in America is having an abortion in her toilet, or her bathtub.
Because she's instructed to, right? Yes. So where does that come from? What does that actually look like and mean? Because
when you're laboring, Mifepristone is very, if anyone's ever had a miscarriage, sometimes they'll give you Mifepristone. If you don't have a DNC, a surgical removal of the dead child and placenta, they'll give you Mifepristone and they'll tell you to go home, and it'll induce contractions. It's extremely painful. You're laboring at home with contractions, and there's big blood clots coming out of you, and there's pregnancy tissue, placental tissue coming out. And then the baby has to come out too. The baby has to come out. And so she's often told when the pain and cramping gets too severe to get on the toilet and not to look or get in the bathtub. So there's a Washington Post article from a pro-choice writer a few years ago. And this writer actually won the Pulitzer Prize after the Dobbs decision. And the article, I read it sometimes on campuses, in its full form, details a girl in Texas who has an illegal chemical abortion. And this girl got in the bathtub. And then it talks about how she buried the baby in her backyard. I mean, this is what we're dealing with on campuses, where we have girls who just go completely unhinged at us or our team, or start trying to flip over our table. Often, and how we instruct our team to deal with it is you're probably dealing with a post-abortive girl because she's seen the baby she's aborted. Sometimes she'll have pictures on her phone and will show us, depending on the child's size.
Oh my gosh.
And but no one wants to talk about it.
I'm honestly having a hard time wrapping my head around it. I've heard you read this article before, and I've heard you read it before I was ever pregnant or had a baby. And I think now, having gone through labor and held my daughter and experienced the overwhelming suffering that you have to go through as a mom to bring your baby into the world, to have to then turn around and look in the toilet and see your baby girl instead of holding her in your arms is devastating. So this is what's happening in millions of homes around the country every single year, mostly through pills that we have no idea where they're coming from. They're going through the mail, they're showing up on someone's front door, and it's becoming normalized because no one has any surveillance over it, or there's no physician oversight whatsoever. Why haven't we done something from a policy perspective about it?
I mean, I'm passing state law. I'll be in Oklahoma here in a few days. The Governor Stitt's great pro-life advocate will be signing our Anti-Chemical Abortion Trafficking Act into law, but it's a major problem. So, you have the other thing that the Biden administration did in the months between the Dobbs hearing and the Dobbs decision. So the FDA took out the REMS. The second thing the Biden admin did was it wrote a memo and said, yes, there's this federal law called the Comstock Act that was passed in 1890. It was amended by Democrats in the 1960s that banned the dissemination of any abortion or birth control-related material in the mail. Democrats removed the birth control portion out in the 1960s, but the abortion part they left in. That's been on the books since 1890. So the Biden DOJ said, we're just not going to enforce that law anymore. So moments before we started recording this, I was on the phone trying to get, the administration in Washington. All they have to do, theoretically, is issue a memo.
I imagine that was intended for like abortion-related pamphlets and interesting.
That's right, but it's abortion-related material.
That's interesting.
So it's literally against federal law to ship abortion pills. Yet we've been doing that because of a Biden-era memo that said they weren't going to force it. Yet we've been talking about, as Republicans and conservatives, of enforcing the law. We have to enforce our laws. But yet we haven't had time at the DOJ to get around to, revising that memo. And so I think there's a lot of things we can do policy-wise. That's a very easy administrative step. I mean, President
that
Trump,
would change the landscape of abortion instantaneously.
Yeah, I mean,
if you just started
hundreds of thousands of babies would be saved a year.
Wow.
Like in one, I can't think of anything else. A memo,
and it doesn't even take passing a law; it's an existing law. That's huge.
And that's my point to the president's administration, because President Trump has been very clear. He wants to be done with this issue. He's very proud of the fact that he nominated judges that reversed Roe. Great job.
Thanks be to God. Yeah.
Good job. Good job. However, us being pro-life advocates, we're not happy.
Yeah.
Of course we're not happy, because abortion's still here, right? And largely abortion's still having the same numbers. So the president, I think, has been struggling to understand, why aren't pro-lifers just happy eternally grateful, right? And abortion's still happening, and he wants abortion to be a state issue. He doesn't want the federal government involved. I would disagree, because your human rights should not begin and end at state lines. We tried that once in our American history, and it was disastrous, right? But he and I can disagree on that. However, you have to be consistent. If it's a state issue and not a federal issue, then the federal government needs to stop funding abortion. We've given hundreds of millions of dollars every year to Planned Parenthood for decades.
Back to it with Kristan on this incredibly important subject in just a second. But first, you guys know, ever since becoming a mom, I have been super militant intentional about what ingredients are in the food that I am eating so that I can healthfully nourish my daughter. And as we've introduced solids to her, been totally shocked at how truly heinous and horrible most of the baby food actually is out there. Like, it's truly shocking. The food that is marketed to children, chock full of seed oils, of artificial dyes, of things that are going to make our children sick and turn them into chronic illness patients to Big Pharma for the rest of their life. These were things that I never thought about growing up, and I certainly never thought about as an adult until I've been responsible for nourishing my daughter. But I am so grateful that I have finally found the tool that makes grocery shopping not just easy, but possible now to be healthy as a family. And that's our friends at Olive. Olive is the most seamless tool that I currently have on my phone. I just whip it out in the grocery store aisle. It uses my camera to scan the barcode of any food product on the shelf at the grocery store. So even when I have my baby on my hip and my phone in my other hand, I can really easily easily see which products I should be avoiding or which ones are totally safe to use. And I never have to put in any guesswork or extra research standing there in the grocery store aisle or at home when I'm making my list to begin with. Because of Olive, we have found the easiest, cleanest, simplest snacks to share it with my daughter, and she is healthy as can be. If you guys are trying to make better choices, but you don't want grocery shopping to become a full-time job, let's be honest, who possibly has time for that? Olive is definitely worth checking out, especially for moms, honestly. It just makes everything that much simpler. You guys can download Olive for free for 7 days in the Apple app and Google Play stores today. That's OLIVE. I am so grateful for people like Kristan who use her platform to truly educate the next generation about what's going on in the world. And as education has become extremely muddled, it's become really difficult to answer the question, how much are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness really worth to you? This is the question that America's founders had to answer and what we continue to answer every day. For more than 150 years, America's 13 colonies governed themselves until Britain declared that they had no right to self-rule. So ordinary people had to make extraordinary choices and risk their lives, their fortunes, and their sacred honor to fight for independence. And against all odds, they won. And in that victory, built one of the most stable and lasting republics in all of human history. Now you can re-educate yourself on the foundation of our country and experience the American Revolution like never before, thanks to our friends at Hillsdale College. Revolutionary America is a new documentary from Hillsdale Studios and is narrated by Tom Selleck, the GOAT, bringing the founding of our nation to life through the voices of those who actually lived it, alongside insights from leading scholars and commentators. Watching the trailer, I am so excited for this film because it really brings to life in a three-dimensional way the things that you grow up learning about in America's school system, but really lack an appreciation for, largely because of how severe the indoctrination about our nation's founding has really gotten today. And if you can't get quite enough of Mr. Michael Knowles, he may or may not make an appearance in said documentary. You guys can get excited to buy tickets to see this film coming to theaters near you soon, Revolutionary America. It'll only be in theaters from May 31st to June 2nd. So make sure you grab your tickets today at hillsdale.edu/revolution.
Let's talk about that for a second, because that's in hot water in Washington right now in the last couple of days. As you know, we were able to successfully defund Planned Parenthood for like a year.
It was
originally supposed to be a 10-year plan. Right. We ended up compromising with the Democrats on this. I have had very interesting discussions about a lot of members on Capitol Hill, our Senate Majority Leader being one of them. And I don't quite understand the inability to go on offense on a whole host of issues, but this issue in particular, because of course Democrats are going to disagree with you about this. Like there is no opportunity.
They're literally in the pocket of Planned Parenthood. They're funding their campaigns.
The Republicans?
No, Democrats.
Okay. Well, so what then is the problem with the Republicans in Congress refusing to take action on it? From your perspective, you spend a lot of time on the Hill.
I mean, how honest? You asked me that because you want me to
no, honest. I am very fatigued with Congress. I mean, I have been for a long time.
Because you have to think about politics. What is the job of an elected official? What is their number one job? It's to get reelected.
Yep.
It's to retain their power. It's to do the least amount possible. Now, is that everybody?
No, certainly.
Mike Johnson is one of my heroes.
He's
the
great.
fact that he's Speaker of the House, I think, just speaks to it's a miracle. I mean, the man is truly one of the few politicians I would let my children be alone in a room with. Okay, love him. I love him. There's a couple other members I love. Mary Miller. Oh gosh, now I have to start. Okay, there's a number. Okay, but
you know who you are.
Yeah, you know who you are. Cat Campbell. Okay, no. But that's their job. They want to do the least amount of work and take the least amount of flack as humanly possible.
Okay, but this is the part that bothers me. And maybe this is just me putting on my political strategist hat here. For so long, my entire lifetime, twice the time of my lifetime, the idea from the Republican Party about talking about abortion has been ignore it.
Yeah.
Sweep it under the rug, don't talk about it because it makes people uncomfortable.
That was literally my argument for John Thune. We will go away for 10 years if you defund Planned Parenthood for 10 years.
It go swept
we will
under the
leave
rug.
you alone for 10 years.
But even if that wasn't the case, even if this is something that we won't go away about, and we won't because this is the most important human rights issue of our time. Let's just think about this for a second. more and more with every passing year, the pro-life generation concept really does become true. I think you manifested that more than anyone else, right? Gen Z
manifested
is
from sheer willpower.
the pro-life generation. And the polling speaks to this. Young people are overwhelmingly rejecting, 90+% of the time, the abortion on demand at any stage of pregnancy for any reason or no reason whatsoever method of the Democrat Party. We hate that. We are uncomfortable with that. Granted, the majority of people say they would still like some legal access to abortion or whatever. But the second you start asking about the Democrat Party's strategy here, people crumble immediately because they hate genocide of children. Why then do Republican politicians not realize that's an opportunity for me to go on offense and start speaking about this, that I'm not one of these radical crazy people. I'm going to do something different, and I'm actually going to talk about it. I'm going to come out of the shadows.
They're feckless and not smart. We tend to think of politicians as like the smartest people around. As someone who has spent a lot of time in Washington state capitals, let me just assure you, Isabel, that is not the truth.
Sadly,
the smartest people are those who aren't in politics. And so they're not as, first of all, they're not as smart as you think they are. They really aren't. Like, they're not paying attention to the issues. And that's why it's like what we do at Students for Life Action, I spend the majority of our supporter funds actually attacking Republicans. It makes me super popular. I'm super popular in Washington now.
Everyone loves Kristan.
Everyone loves Kristan. Because we spend a lot of the time fighting in the primaries, because for me, that's where we can get the biggest bang for our buck, right? I can spend $6,000 in a state, like, for example, the Senate president in North Carolina lost his primary by 82 votes in March after Students for Life door knocked in his district, which was the only precinct, his home precinct, that didn't go over 50% for him.
Wow.
He raised $10 million. His opponent raised $80,000. And why did we get involved? Because our two members that we had supported and endorsed and campaigned for introduced a bill to defund Planned Parenthood in the state of North Carolina, and that Senate president killed it. Even though he always went to all the pro-life banquets, he was always pro-life. So now I got a champion in his place, and this guy just wasted $10 million of Republicans' money.
That's politics, I guess.
And so I think they're not as smart as we think they are. They're not as clued in. They're not as courageous as we think they are, because their job is to get reelected. And so they always, and you have to think, most of them, like in Washington, like President Trump's like, I'm going to drain the swamp. He did not drain the swamp of the career pollsters, the consultants, and quite frankly, a lot of the staff. So like, that's what happened in 2010. Like for most of your Gen Z, people are like, why is she talking about 2010? I don't know. But in 2010, you had the whole
in 2010, I was, hang on, I'm thinking. I started high school in 2011.
Oh my gosh.
So I was in 7th or 8th grade.
So you had this whole, there was this whole Tea Party thing after Obamacare, right?
I think people generally remember
the Republicans swept the thing. And we had all this hope, right? All these like great Republicans came into Washington, D.C. Well, a lot of them had no idea what they were doing. These were new guys, like new to politics. They had maybe been in state level politics. Who did they hire? All the same old staff that had worked for these establishment Republicans.
This is interesting, though, because you talk about the Tea Party. I think we saw the next iteration of that with the Freedom Caucus.
Oh, that's right.
And very similar, lackluster, non-existent results there, unfortunately. But I am at least starting to observe a shift of courage. Generationally, with the members of Congress that are younger, with young children, and with their staff. And I'm thinking about people like Brandon Gill, Anna Paulina Luna, Kat Kamek, Riley Moore, these people
the pro-life generation.
Amazing, courageous patriots, and seem to me, at least, to be less concerned with getting reelected and a lot more concerned with actually changing something, doing something meaningful. Technically, I think they're millennials, but we'll accept them.
I'll take them. They're Gen Y. They're in mine.
Well, they're honorary Gen Zers. Do you have hope for that with this new generation of leadership, and maybe finally this hamster wheel can actually go somewhere?
I hope, because if we want to make, and I'm speaking as like Republican Kristan, but if we want to make future Republican conservative voters, we have to give this generation a reason why to keep voting for Republicans. And I think we've got to eliminate, and what's been killing Republicans for a long time is this stupid big tent theory. Republicans, we are like...
Oh, this is tea.
Okay. Right.
We're getting interesting here.
I worked in D.C. for a number of years, and so whatever. But we have this stupid thing, like we are like the kids in school Now, you might not remember this, your generation, but it was a big deal, the lunch table in school, right? Like, you had, like, popular kid tables at the lunch table, and, like, you had, like, the, mediocre kids, and then you had, like, I don't know, the shop kids or the people who
Theater
were juvenile
geeks,
offenders.
the band
Offenders.
people,
The theater. Everybody kind of had their own, like, clique, right? And I was always, like, in school, like, I didn't want to be with the popular people because I didn't have Abercrombie and Fitch. Like, my mom would never.
My mom wouldn't let us go in there. It smelled too strong.
Yeah, no, it was too sexy. The advertiser was too sexy, right? Like, maybe I could get an American Eagle shirt every once in a while. So I was kind of like in the mediocre kids, right? I don't know what you call it, but whatever.
The normies.
The normies, yeah, there you go. That's a new Gen Z term.
Yeah.
We are like Republicans. We are like the kids at the lunch table who are like desperate to have the most popular lunch table. So we accept everybody. We're like, oh, you want to be a Republican? Yes, you hate every single thing our platform stands for. We'll work against us and we'll vote against us every single time. But you have an R next to your name. Yay, we're so popular. Come over to our table. That's the Big Tent strategy. And Democrats have the opposite. Like, they're very clear.
Honest.
Like,
about
if
what
you
they
do
believe
not,
in.
and they, it's funny to watch them eat themselves, right? Because they always have to prioritize their issues, and that's my favorite thing, is to watch them attack each other, right? But their intersectionalism. But they're very clear. Like, you have to be united that you support abortion up until the moment of birth, taxpayer funded, and even if a baby's born alive, let it die. Like, you have to be extremist on abortion to be elected to Congress right now. It used to be,
or any position of elected
there used
office,
to be
actually.
Democrats on Capitol Hill who were pro-life.
Tons.
And I
they were called
remember
Catholics.
they were Catholics, right? Nancy Pelosi stripped Dan Lipinski of all of his committee hearings. We were primarying, and it was Students for Life with a bunch of union guys helping, trying to save his job in Chicago against NARAL. And eventually, after like the third time, Nancy Pelosi and the Democrats took out Dan Lipinski, like the last remaining Democrat pro-lifer in Congress. So they have ideological purity. So when they get to power, takes 2 seconds to pass a bill, expand abortion. And that's what this is what people need to understand for 2026. If they win, the Democrats win the majority this November, they will not waste a moment to pass a federal bill to mandate abortion up until the moment of birth.
Correct.
No reasons needed, no excuses given, taxpayer funded. They already did it during Trump administration, his first administration. It only passed the House. We stopped it, thank God, because of the filibuster in the Senate.
Well, and even worse, if God forbid they were to take back the White House in 2028, on top of it, they'll pack the Supreme Court to make sure it's solidified as constitutional law.
They're already talking about packing.
They'll add more seats to Congress from Washington, D.C.
They will
Puerto
destroy
Rico,
our republic as we know it.
Well, and abortion will forever become baked into the culture of the United States, which is devastating, because I really do think the world looks at us as this last opportunity when it comes to saving babies' lives. I mean, this is easily the biggest, I said this earlier, the biggest human rights crisis of all time. And frankly, I love how we love to throw around the word genocide in society. We use it for basically every single foreign conflict on the planet. But this is a genocide. This is a genocide that took 1/3 of my generation. That, by the numbers, is unprecedented by anything in human history. And that's what we're talking about when we start talking about why politicians need to speak up.
No, but so Republicans have this big tent. So right now we technically have like a 1-vote majority in the House, but there's 18 pro-choice Republicans or 15 or something like that. So you can't get anything done. So this is why you always hear people like, Republicans can win elections because they can't govern. Because we want to be the cool kids table. And we want to have the most people at our lunch table in the cafeteria. And it bites us in the butt every single time. And it's not just the issue of abortion it kills us on. It kills us on a ton of other issues. But I think what the other thing you're saying about the genocide is so important, because Republicans treat this issue as if it's theoretical. Right? So there's a extreme right wing in the pro-life movement. Well, they don't even call themselves pro-life. They don't like the word pro-life. But there's people who say we want abortion to be always illegal, me too, but women should be put in jail.
In prison. Yeah, this is a growing discourse.
And
what do you think of that?
They should even go get the death penalty, right? There was a bill in Tennessee that was up when last time I was here that would have actually given women the death penalty if they were convicted. It's crazy. It's a crazy thing, and it's something that the pro-life movement has never sought to do, because at the end of the day, my job is to end the killing as fast as possible. My job is not to put a bunch of people in prison. And she's also part of our mission. Now, because we know, according to the abortion industry stats, the vast majority of women report being coerced into having an abortion, right? Usually by the partner, the lame-ass boyfriend who wants to use abortion as this lazy tool so he can keep using her body for pleasure and not have any responsibilities, right? So it's a conversation not even worth having because we can't even get Republicans to, like, I don't know, stop funding Planned Parenthood or to enforce the Comstock Act, which is already federal law. Then why are you going to have a conversation? It's not going anywhere.
Yeah.
But what it does is on the manosphere on X is it allows people to argue over who's more moral and who's more right.
Men or women, meaning?
No, like I'm more moral because I want to say everyone goes to prison and even the death penalty applies. And therefore I'm more moral than somebody who's against abortion, wants to make all abortions illegal.
But doesn't want to prosecute
But doesn't see prosecuting moms right now as the thing to do. Because
that's the right now part. This is the interesting part to me because I do understand the merits of the logic of what people are saying. That ultimately, every day I see videos on TikTok of women bragging about how this is their 12th abortion and they're drinking tequila in the parking lot of Planned Parenthood.
I meet those girls.
It's disgusting. I literally watched a video the other day in the parking lot of Planned Parenthood, a girl drinking a whole entire handle of tequila saying, F my baby, I can't wait to go kill my baby.
First you have to ask yourself, is that really real? Because I have girls who tell me these terrible things and then I go, explain to me what happened, and they don't. So they're just saying it for the shock.
But I do understand that is out there, right? And so I think there is an interesting moral and human rights and legal conversation to have about who is ultimately legally responsible for the death of that child. I think you and I and Charlie Kirk have always had very similar viewpoints on this, that the immediate right now need for our society is to end the genocide of children. And it is shocking beyond anything you can possibly imagine, the lies and the lengths of the lies that the abortion industry is willing to go to make sure a mom never even knows that her baby was a baby to begin with when she kills them, which is just so tragic.
No, but it's treating them like the theoretical. For example, like we'll introduce legislation in a state to make all chemical abortions banned or a certain type of abortion. And these people will come in and they'll try to kill that pro-life law because it's not 100% ending all abortion and putting everyone in jail. And I'm like, okay, I trust me. Any law that doesn't end all abortions is subpar. But I'm going to take exactly as much as I can get, plus a little bit more, to save as many lives today because there's actual babies dying. But we treat it, that side's treating it as theoretical.
Like the trolley problem experiment.
Yeah, it's like a thought experiment. Like it doesn't have, like you're standing in front of a burning building and there's people crying out, asking for you to go in that building and to rescue them. And you're like the one standing on the street going, well, I can't save everybody. It's a 4-story building, so I'm just going to let them all cry out and die. That's what that does.
Interesting.
No, I would say most people, being good people, would rush into the building. Even if you knew you couldn't save everybody in the building, you would rush into a building to save as many lives as possible.
Even if it was just one,
Even if it was just one, you would say it was worth it because it's one human life, one child created in God's image. And so I think you have that side treating it as like this theoretical conversation of let's pretend who's more moral than everybody else while actively trying to kill bills that will save lives, which I believe is a moral sin. But then you have Republicans who are like, oh yeah, I'm pro-life. I go to the pro-life banquet once a year and I give $250 to my local pregnancy center, who will like maybe every once in a while sign like a little letter. But then when it comes to actually like doing something in Congress, they treat the child like they're theoretical as well. And it's like, no, like human children, 2,000 plus human children will die tomorrow from abortion. 2,000 plus women will be forever wounded from their abortion. Families, 2,000 plus families will have a whole branch of their family tree forever cut off. Like this is not a theoretical conversation. Like the burning building is in front of you. It is on fire. And we have to go in and save as many as we can. And I think both sides treat it as, let's just have a theoretical discussion. This is not tax policy. This is not something like, oh, it's about a flat tax or like whatever we want to argue.
This is saving someone's life.
This is actual saving human lives. And I think that gets missed in Washington, D.C. And there's all these other issues, and they're important issues. But this is the preeminent issue, because if you don't get this right, like, what else do I care?
It's the right to life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. You
And
can't very
that
well have the
specific
others.
order.
Yeah, without life beginning. You mentioned the Comstock Act. I'm really interested in that, and I'm going to follow
Sorry,
up
I
on
went
that
all
moving
dorky
forward.
on your podcast.
No, this is amazing. I want to dork out about something else.
This will make a good social media
no
clip.
one ever talks about this, Kristan, and it blows my mind because you would think all of the rabidly pro-environment people would be all over this. You tossed to it a little bit earlier. One of the other major policy areas I think we could make a dramatic change tomorrow in the distribution of abortion pills is in how it's impacting our water. And you have said this repeatedly, the EPA, all of our environmental regulatory agencies refuse to do any sort of studies, even though we know how abortion pills work. They are poisoning our drinking water and our wastewater, impacting wildlife. Walk me through how that is happening.
Yes. So a couple of years ago, Students for Life did testing of our water. This is going to be published in a peer-reviewed journal very soon. So I guess I can't
the
give
science nerd in me.
the science. Look at you.
The inner Sheldon Cooper is like, yes.
Okay. So I got dorky. You're gonna get dorky. It was interesting to do the study because
where'd you guys do it?
We did it here. We did it in 3 U.S. cities. It took us 30 different companies, and I had to create a shell company to do the water testing, because when the companies found out what I was testing the water they wouldn't test the water. So I actually had to hire a company overseas that was licensed to do water testing here in the United States. Then I had to hire another company that would collect the water to send it to the testing company. And the company who did my water testing thought they were doing it for an ag group. But I got the water. I got the damn numbers. That's
okay. What 3 cities? It was Nashville.
Can't tell.
Oh, okay, fine. All right, fine.
But it's one that you wouldn't expect, and just know if you live in a place that recycles its water, stop drinking the tap water. So we tested the water before it got to the wastewater treatment plant, after the wastewater treatment plant, and at the tap. In all 3 cities, we found the 3 anti-progesterone metabolites that are only found in one drug on the market, Mifepristone. Not any other drug. I'm not talking about birth control. Is birth control in our water? Yes. But
that's a separate problem.
That's a separate problem. I can't help you if it's making your son gay. I don't know. Maybe, I don't know.
At least the frogs, right?
Maybe the frogs. Okay. All I care about is Mifepristone. So this is the only drug on the market that has these 3 progesterone-blocking metabolites. Progesterone is very important to any woman who's trying to get pregnant, trying to stay pregnant, especially early in pregnancy. If you know a woman who's had miscarriages, usually what the OB will say is you might have a progesterone deficiency, and so you've got to get the shots, or or if you're a man who's trying to develop your brain, because progesterone is really important to brain growth, especially in men. We found it in the tap in all 3 cities. So what that means is the wastewater treatment plant is not taking these anti-progesterone metabolites out of the water.
How are they? This might seem like a stupid, obvious question.
Other people's abortions.
How are they getting into the water? Because you were taking these drugs, they don't filter out of your body right away, and you pee them into the toilet, or what? Okay.
So you take your Mifepristone as a woman. In your home,
have an abortion.
You're told to sit in the toilet or get in the bathtub when you're having an abortion. Mifepristone does not; these metabolites do not. So a lot of pharmaceuticals will go inactive by the time you pee them out. Some drugs don't. Mifepristone is one of those drugs. So it actually exists for a number of days in the water. It comes out in your blood and the placental tissue. So when the placental tissue in your blood are bleeding out into the toilet, it's entering into our wastewater system. So you're literally drinking other people's abortions. I do not. Now, the next question I was literally on the phone with somebody we all know before we did this, and she told me she got a bath filter for her children's bathtub because she's so worried about these drugs. And I'm like, I don't know. I did not test what water filtration system will. I mean, if you're...
I don't know if we have anything.
If anybody owns a water filtration system and wants to sponsor some testing, I'll tell you what to test.
We're going to come find you.
Yes,
if you own this company, help us.
You can sponsor Students
Maybe
for
we
Life.
should make one, frankly.
Yes, seriously.
There's a hole in the market.
I have U.S. senators are like, well, which water filter should I get? I'm like, I don't know. I just drink Celsius all day. I don't even drink tap water. I just gave up on it, okay? So, no, it's in the water. It's 100% in the water. I do not know what the long-term effects of it are, because I run a group trying to end abortion. I'm not running a water testing company.
Or an environmental agency.
Yeah, environmental.
Totally.
But we have this whole thing called the EPA. So I've had several meetings with the EPA. There's actually an open comment period until June 1st.
Okay.
So if you go to studentsforlife.org, right now you can actually send a comment to the EPA. We've already generated more than 3,000 comments to them because when they try to propose a regulatory rule change, they have to do an open comment period. And they're trying to add a list of contaminants that they're going to start testing in the Safe Drinking Water Act. And so we want these metabolites to be listed in that.
One would think,
So you can go to studentselect.org and we tell you in like 10 seconds how to send a comment to the EPA.
Just thinking about the downstream, no pun intended, effects of this.
We have an infertility
could you
crisis
be
in our
inducing
country.
abortions theoretically in women who are pregnant drinking this water?
If I had a friend who was, the number one thing I hear from Gen Z young girls all the time is, do you think I'll be able to get pregnant? Because we know we're living in an infertility crisis.
Yeah,
I mean, that's why the White House violated its own MAHA rules this September and did that whole like, hey, we're going to give more money to IVF clinics and we'll make your IVF clinics and your IVF drugs cheaper because they know that we have a problem with infertility. And the pro-lifers were all upset, like, why are you going to give money when they're not curing infertility at all?
No, I think they probably saw it as an immediate Band-Aid on a huge hemorrhaging
it's a lipstick
problem.
on a big, fat,
it is
ugly
a lipstick
by
on
the
a pig.
way.
And I've let everybody in Washington know that.
Yes, restorative reproductive medicine is actually more effective than
way
IVF,
better,
ethical and holistic, and actually is curative.
We've covered IVF a lot on the show,
yeah,
importantly. But this is interesting to me.
No, if I had a friend who is suffering from early miscarriages, I would 100% tell her stop drinking tap water, especially in a city that is recycling your water. So Fairfax County, Virginia, recycles its water. Austin, Texas, recycles its water. Phoenix, Arizona, recycles its water. The contaminants in the water actually spiked. We tested in winter and we tested in summer. And in the summer months, when the water was being recycled, the contaminants doubled.
Doubled? Do you think this has any impact on wildlife populations and
Absolutely.
fertility?
We are also experiencing an epidemic. I don't know if you've noticed, I've been stocking up on beef at Costco. Beef's been going up because there's an epidemic of cow miscarriage and stillbirth rates.
You're kidding.
No. I tried to get into CattleCon, but they wouldn't let me have a table because they said that I wasn't critical to their mission. So we might still go anyway.
You should totally go anyway.
They're totally
I didn't even know
supportive. I don't mean to call out CattleCon. I was trying to pay CattleCon to have a table.
This is
to tell ranchers, like, hey, you might want to start testing your water because the cows are getting the water after it comes downstream after the wastewater treatment plant.
Oh my gosh.
Yes. And by the way, you should get a bunch of beef because beef is going up. As a mom of multiple boys, it's killing me. We're going to have a lot of pork chops this summer.
We eat a lot of steak at our house too with the daughter. She loves steak.
Well, aren't you sponsored by like Good Ranchers? Aren't you?
Every once in a while they send us a nice box.
You don't Daily Wire get free meat. I am not getting free meat in the Prolife.
But you're in Idaho now. You can buy a whole cow from your neighbor down the road. That's
true. I do have cows next door.
That's the way to do it. That's the way to do it.
Well, I'm going to get you out to Idaho.
I know. We miss Idaho a whole lot. I loved growing up there for many years.
But yeah, no, this is 100% a problem. The EPA could act tomorrow. The FDA could act, right? The FDA could just say, hey.
Well, from a safety perspective alone, the
from
abortion
a women's perspective,
unsafe. It should not have the level
1 in
of
10 women will have
that
serious complications. This is unsafe for women, and we need to mandate at least catch kits, like our federal Clean Water for All Life Act says. It's like, hey, it's not a ban, but you have to have a catch kit to catch all these contaminants, which, by the way, would cause a lot of women not to do it. If you're like, hey, here's some pills, and by the way, you have to catch the body of your baby. It's going to convince a lot of women.
Well, that's the other element to this that's interesting to me is it's not just drug, obviously. If women are being told to give birth in their toilet and then not look and flush the toilet, we're talking about human remains that are being discarded in our wastewater system. And we have
really strict laws about disposal of human remains. Like, if your dog is on chemo, you're not allowed to let him poop on your lawn and let it just sit there.
Really?
Yes, by the way, a PSA, you have to clean it up because there's drugs in the chemo drugs can enter into our groundwater. The EPA tells us you're not allowed to flush a goldfish, Isabel.
Oops. I have flushed many a fish throughout the years.
EPA
Although
violator.
we were a beta fish family more than a goldfish family.
I was beta fish.
Really? That's officially a thing?
No, it's like a whole thing. Yeah. No, like if I go get my arm amputated at the hospital, it is my arm. Let's talk about bodily autonomy. This is my arm, right? I cannot demand that the hospital give me my arm that I had amputated so I can bury it in my backyard. Why not? It's my arm. Why not? Because we have laws about burying human remains. Human remains, body parts have to be buried so far into the bedrock so it doesn't seep into our groundwater. Like, we have like really strict laws when it comes to medical waste and burying of our body parts. Like, took my family out to see Stonewall Jackson's arm in Virginia because we're dorks at the Hawkins family.
You guys are like the peak homeschool family dorks.
Oh, I mean, we lived in our camper.
Yeah.
We went to all stuff. So we went out in this field and we found Stonewall Jackson's arm because you can find. It's awesome.
That's really cool.
It's so
I didn't even know that was a thing.
But I always think about that. I'm like, I can't get my arm buried in the ground now if my arm gets chopped off. Like, they have to dispose of it using medical waste protocol because my arm could contaminate our groundwater.
And just to put the numbers behind all of this, how many that we think
You're over
chemical
700,000.
abortions, 700,000 babies.
It's at least 70,000 at this point.
We're in our drinking water.
It's at least 70% of abortions are chemical abortions. And so if you just say 1 million abortions, that's 700,000 babies just in the United States.
Whose bodies are in our water.
No one's catching the bodies. The babies aren't being buried. They're not being cremated. They're not being collected by Stericycle for medical waste. Like, and no one's talking about it. Like, that's the sad thing. When you think about abortion, you have all of these walking wounded, and you and I have met them on college campuses, women and men who are like suffering in silence from their abortions. You have all of these babies dying and no one wants to talk about it. And everyone's like, oh, like people probably didn't watch this episode because they're like, oh, Kristan,
it's uncomfortable.
She's the abortion lady. She's going to talk about abortion. Yeah, it's uncomfortable. And what we have to talk about. I mean, we're introducing a bill in Congress next week called the Bereaved Parents' Rights Act, and it's just on miscarriage. And all it says is that if you've had a miscarriage, the hospital needs to be able to tell you that you can actually ask for your baby's body
to have a funeral.
And too few people, even people I know who've worked for Students for Life, have called me during a miscarriage going, they're not giving me my baby's body. Because the hospital will say, we can't release a human body to you. Human remains. And so we went and shopped this bill all over Capitol, even to Democrats, and said, like, hey, this isn't about abortion. It's not limiting abortion at all. We left and right, let's do like a bipartisan. We couldn't find one Democrat senator or House of Representative member who would put their name on the bill. Why, Isabel? Because you can't talk about miscarriage and dead babies. Because if you admit that there's something to mourn and that there's a human remains in the miscarriage, then you're admitting that abortion's also killing babies. So we can't have hard conversations because we haven't resolved this issue.
Well, speaking of hard conversations, I want to end with this because I had chills.
Because this has been so easy.
I know. Well, I love talking about this with you. Truly, your level of optimism through all of this and continuing to have a smile on your face while we're fighting for it has inspired millions of people to be the pro-life generation. I really do believe that. We cannot be emotionally exhausted to the point of not continuing to fight, right? We have to keep going. But and I know you were in the crowd when this happened in January, had chills at the March for Life when our vice president was talking about what abortion really is. And in his speech, he compared it to ancient civilizations throughout time who would sacrifice their children in some level of religious ritual to promote whatever. At some points it was fertility or a good harvest or whatever. He talked about the Mayans and the Aztecs and so many different societies. And he brought it home to us today saying there is no change between any one of those societies and the one we live in today. Abortion is still human sacrifice. I have good authority here from a little birdie that told me that is the theme of your fall tour. Why did you pick that subject, and do you think it's going to ruffle a lot of feathers on college campuses?
It was the theme of my spring tour too. And it actually literally brought out a demon at Washington State University. Just wait for that footage to come out. Good thing I had holy water. That's the only time my security guard looked at me and said, that was scary.
Knowing all the other things that you've been through, that's the only time.
I was on campus when Charlie was assassinated. I mean, for him to say that was the scariest thing he'd ever faced, like, yeah. Wow. Because Satan is real and he's at work. But it was interesting on the spring tour because a lot of kids would come and be like, well, I'm an atheist. And I was like, okay, good for you. Like, this is religious. No, it's not. And it's very simple. When you look at all the world's civilizations, take the Aztecs. How do you have human sacrifice? You have an angry god that you have to please. There's a group of vulnerable people, right? So the Aztecs would, like the warring tribes or whatever they would call it, they wouldn't kill them. They would try to capture them alive. They probably didn't say that they weren't humans, but they were less than them, right? And then there's a crisis of, hey, the sun isn't coming out, the crops aren't going to grow, and there's going to be mass starvation. So then there's a justification. If we kill this vulnerable group to appease the angry God, then the sun will come out, the crops will grow, and we won't all starve. That's exactly how all human sacrifices have always happened. In ancient Greece, the Israelites, which, I mean, like, reading the Old Testament is like watching a horror film because
brutal.
This is why I don't watch horror films. Like, don't go in the house. Don't go in the house. God rescues you out of Egypt. What do? Erect idols. Like, what are you doing? And then you do it again in Joshua. Like, what? Stop being stupid. I was trying to read the Old Testament this spring and it was killing me. It was
it's brutal.
I got the same angst as I'm watching like a horror film. That's why I can't watch those. But that's exactly what happens in abortion. There's a God we're trying to serve. It's the lowercase g, God of self, 100%. That's the God we're trying to serve. There is a vulnerable group of people who we might say have value. It's a baby if she wants it to be, right? Or it's not a baby to me, but I won't fully say it doesn't have any value. It just doesn't have value to me right now. There's a crisis or a fear, right? Like, I've got to graduate college. I promised my dad I'd graduate college. I got to achieve this career milestone before I have kids.
Or pregnancy is so scary, it might literally kill me.
Yes, the lies that we're hearing. We had the Democratic congressional candidate who's saying she'd kill her baby because of environmentalism, right?
That's insane. Yeah.
She had 2 kids via IVF, but then conceived naturally and killed that. So there's that fear, right? And so then there's this justification. Well, if I do this thing and I kill this vulnerable human, it's going to produce a better outcome for the whole world, right? I'll be able to graduate high school. I'll be able to graduate college. I'll be able to reach that career goal. It might not have been fun or something I really wanted to do, but it's for the better. It's for the good. There's a justification. It's 100% human sacrifice. And I think that's the underlying problem of all of it when you talk about abortion. Is we're trying to serve the God of self. And we have the second wave of feminism. I mean, let's talk about the boomers. Like, the boomers now. Like, oh my gosh.
Are we doing some anti-boomer hate? Because I'm ready for it.
I mean, like, you see the studies now where they're like, the boomers are like this, they're not going to leave any money to their kids.
None.
This is going to be the first generation, there's no wealth transfer. And this is going to dramatically, right? The boomers are the 1960 children. And they've lived through this thing that's changed our civilization. That's how we got the second wave of feminism that literally sold these lies to us that the highest level of happiness we can achieve is like self-pleasure, temporal, short-lived pleasure, or like some sort of like ego gratification, career success. And if you look at like levels of happiness, there's really like 4 levels of happiness. That's level 1 and level 2 happiness. That's low-level happiness.
The low-hanging fruit.
And that's why you have women like, Florence Welch from Florence and the Machine, who did this whole album, like Everybody Scream, and it's like she's like a witch now, and she talked about how she had ectopic pregnancy, and she couldn't handle, she was trying to grieve, and so she bought like a cauldron, and she's doing like rituals, and she's on tour in America, and like, it's all like witchy, woo-woo, witchcore stuff going on. Look up Instagram. Well, your phone's probably listening to me, so later on, the algorithm will feed you these pictures. And it's like occult practices and I like love Florence Machine. Like, I know all the lyrics, okay? And I'm sorry, it's totally millennial. It's total Gen Z.
We know Florence.
Gen Z, you can Google her.
Too.
No, my staff told me, they're like, Kristan, that's total.
But it is millennial. We're more like Noah Con girlies, I think. Okay. But that's okay.
Okay, well, she had that Paris Paloma or whatever her name is on tour because she's like the fairy girl and now Florence is the witch girl and they're like doing joint collabs.
Bizarre.
But you have like Florence who's achieved all this like career success, right?
Nothing. Yeah.
This whole album is about her trying to come to grips with this pain of losing her daughter through ectopic pregnancy, which by the way almost killed her, which then she condemned the music industry for like putting her back out on tour and not actually caring about her body. But this whole album is her trying to reckon with the pain, talking about her success. And then there's these lyrics of like, I made 1,000 people love me, but now I'm in a hotel room all alone. Or I'm like a buckle on your belt and you won't call me back. And then she ends this album with a song like, you can have it all. I'm like, no, you can't. This whole time you've been saying how miserable you are. You've achieved levels 1 and 2 happiness. You've achieved the career sex. You have all the money. Everything second wave feminism told us we needed or we must have. You have it.
And you're miserable.
And you are absolutely miserable, and you're buying cauldrons, and you're like into witchcraft and the occult now. Because you can't find transcendence, the top level of heaven. It's like, well, all my atheist friends have to go out and hike Grand Teton on a Saturday morning. I get to sleep in if I want to. They have to get up at like 4 in the morning and hike up the top of Grand Teton. Why? I feel connected.
To something.
Because they're looking for a transcendence. And so as long as we continue to serve the God of self and chasing this low-level happiness, that's going to make us happy, we're going to continue to have abortions.
Yeah.
It's not until we say, no, there's a God who spoke the universe into existence. He made each and every one of these children with purpose. He made me with purpose. I have value. I have meaning. There's a reason I'm here. Until we can answer that, we're not going to solve the abortion crisis, even with, how many times I beat up a Republican politician.
Well, that matters too. Don't get me wrong. But I'll say this and then we'll close out. I will never forget a moment that we had on campus during your last speaking tour that I joined. There was a lot of unforgettable moments on that tour, let's be completely honest. Lots of good videos for you guys to watch somewhere out there. But a young woman came up to us to ask us a question in line. And we had this interesting back and forth with her, and she wasn't very combative. She wasn't angry and screaming, which was a bit unusual on that tour. And I remember her saying, well, I guess I just don't understand the value of a baby if I don't have any value. And you started pulling at that thread, and you asked her, okay, what does that mean to you? Do you not think that your life has meaning? Do you not think that you should be here? And she thought about it for a second, and ultimately she said, honestly, no, I wish I wasn't here. I wish my mom had aborted me. And the entire room went completely silent, and we all just sat there with that for a moment. And I remember you said, well, I'm incredibly sorry that you feel that way. I'm going to be praying for you. And, that's obviously not true. But that is precisely the problem, is we have stripped human meaning entirely from our society to the point that we have an entire generation, a third of us who isn't even here already because of abortion, who has now bought into this lie even further, that even our own lives are not important.
We were expendable.
They're not meaningful. They're not creating something beautiful in this world that we were intended to do, which is why I'm so, so grateful for you and the voice that you continue to have in this fight against the biggest human rights crisis of our time. Where can people find out where you're going to be on campus for your fall tour and continue to support Students for Life?
Yeah. Go to studentsforlife.org, and that's where you can support us, join our prayer team. Just follow me on social. That's where you'll find out where I'm at usually. Kristan Mercer Hawkins or Kristan Hawkins, you'll find me. You'll find me on Instagram.
Well, next time we hang out, may it not be in a studio, may it be hiking the Tetons, please.
That's right. And I have a YouTube channel. Yes. I have a whole YouTube channel, Kristan Hawkins.
You've been posting all kinds of good stuff.
Oh, I know. You've been liking it. So you're my biggest fan.
Always. We love you, Kristan. Thanks for joining us.
Thanks, Isabel.